I rodeoed for a number of years in my earlier life. When you rodeo, there's many stories, many things, lots of other things happen to you. And I was sitting in a bar room down in Dallas, and I was drinking up some suds. I was dreaming about my younger days when I was considered a young stud. Now, I'm a broken down old cowboy. Yeah, I used to ride them broncs. Now all I'm riding is this bar stool, and I'm drinking up these suds. Well, I left that bar one day, and I took a walk downtown, and I stopped in a park there just to look around. And I met a young cowboy there. He was about 8 or 9, and he asked me a lot of questions about this life of mine. So I told him all about the rodeo trail and how I ride those broncs, and I told him about going down the road and all about hard knocks. I told him about the good times when I was winning high, and I told him about the bad times when, hell, I couldn't win a dime. But I saw that young cowboy a few more times in the next couple of weeks, and we always sit around and talk, and he always kind of listened to me. And one day he asked me about the rodeo that was going to come to town. He asked me if I was going to enter, just to show him how it was done. Well, before I realized what I said, I promised him that I would, and he got really excited, and he said he'd dang sure be there if he could. Well, I got to admit that I was scared as I sat behind the chutes, and I was sure cussing myself for being dumb as I strapped my shanks on my boots. I put my rigging on my horse, and I took one last look around before I got down, and over by the fence I saw him standing there, and he looked at me and he waved. He had a grin from ear to ear, and he gave me the sign of victory. And from that one moment I knew that with the faith of this one young cowboy, there was no way I could lose. You know, that bronc, he nearly dumped me off one time or two, but I was still sitting right there in the middle of him when that 8-second whistle blew. And after I got down and they announced my score, well, I knew that I'd won. It was all because of one young cowboy that this whole damn thing had begun. He taught me all about confidence and how to be a man. And I walked right over to that fence, and I happily shook his hand. Well, I saw that young cowboy just one more time before I left that town. Tell him I was going down the road. I was rodeo bound. And I gave him the buckle that I won at the rodeo that day, and I shook his hand and said goodbye, and then I turned away. And as I walked away from him, my tears began to run, because you see, that young cowboy would never, ever know that he really was my son. Okay, this next group that's coming out there, the Rockin HW. There's the guy in a black hat. His name is Mike Whitacker. And he's a nice guy, really good guy. The guy in the black hat, the white hat, no, you can't change that, Halvorson. No, that's another case. There's something else there. You know, when I saw Halvorson a little while back, and you know when he was wearing an earring. And usually a conservative kind of guy, I was kind of curious about what was this fashion change. And I said, Al, I didn't know you were into earrings. He says, oh, it's just an earring, don't make a big deal about it. I said, really? I said, so how long have you been wearing it? And he hesitated for a minute, and he says, ever since my girlfriend found it in my truck. They hail from over there in Ellensburg, the Rockin HW.
You're gonna die. Well, we got a friend in the audience who wrote this next song, and we're really pleased that Mr. Anderson allows us to do this. Thank you, David, for writing this. Dave Anderson wrote this, guy back there, sitting all by himself. Yeah, you.
That good-looking guy kind of looks like Tom Selleck a little bit there.
Yeah, kind of looks like Tom Selleck.
Or Festus, one or the other.
Meat, it's what for dinner. Here is a saddle that's built to be rode. The wind and the dust, the snow and the cold. By a cowboy out earning the wages he's owed. Here is a saddle that's built to be rode. He built it himself, 'cause he knowed what he wanted. Tough using rigging whenever he's mounted. He paid for it piecemeal, not ever once daunted. From wages he'd earned, spent almost uncounted. But he gave it to me on the day that he died. Stood up to everything I ever tried. His masterful blending of art and rawhide. I'm grateful to ride his saddle. He spent 8 months of wielding his skive and a knife. For his arthritis aches, his back pain and strife. On this custom-built saddle was the last of his life. To keep his mind off of missing his wife. And he gave it to me on the day that he died. Stood up to everything I ever tried. His masterful blending of art and rawhide. I'm grateful to ride his saddle.
I don't know the reason it came across my mind. I was minding to myself. It's like stumbling across a good old book just sitting upon the shelf. The memories kept a-flowing, they kept coming all day long, like the visit from a long-lost friend or a good old country song. I haven't had these thoughts for years, but in fact, I felt ashamed. The times we had way back when will never be the same. The times we had nonetheless, now they're just old memories. Back in the good old days, how life's supposed to be. See, my old man and I'd go riding way up in the hills. We'd fish till the sun came down, and we'd eat till we had our fill. He'd cuss and laugh and tell his lies, but I didn't mind. In the world that we are living, men like him are hard to find. He always was a teaching me, and in fact, he drove me crazy. If you planned on being around him much, you better not be lazy. In most everything that he did, there was a one and only way. This teaching somehow has been lost. We need it back, I'd have to say. Now, I'm not saying he's ornery. He had a heart of gold. He took time for me and most everyone that stumbled down his road. He's been gone most of my life, and I have a few things of his. But I wish I'd have kept just one more. At my age, it's surely missed. I can see it the plainest day, although it was old and half wore out. Just to sit upon her once again is what I dream about. Well, he died when I was way too young. You see, I didn't understand. Now I wish I had that saddle, the one that belonged to my old man.
It's just leather attached to a tree called a way. For his skills would all fade, like his artistry had when he last tried to break. He never once mounted the saddle that he made, but he gave it to me on the day that he died. Stood up to everything I ever tried. His masterful blending of art and rawhide. I'm grateful to ride his saddle. And when my time comes, I hope that it's told that here is a cowboy who lives by the code. And he passed it along by the time he got old, but he never sold his saddle. No, he never sold his saddle. So finish the story.
Finish the story. Well, I wrote that poem probably 15 years ago, I suppose. And see, my dad, when he passed away when I was 18, and my mom and dad, my sisters were gone, and I was a pretty good kid, and they they kind of fell in love again, and then my dad passed suddenly. My mom got upset. She was mad. She is cheated. And she sold everything, including my saddles, his saddles. And so I wrote the poem. And I sent it off to my Uncle Bill in Kamei, Idaho, and he called me up. He read the poem. He says, "You want your saddle back? I've got it." And sitting in my house today, I got my saddle back and his saddle back. So it's a nice ending.
Give a hand to Rockin HW.